All right, so you saw it in the thumbnail, you saw it in the title. We have the Zcam E2 S6 in the house. This is from Lens Rentals. So I have this in my cart with B&H and was so close to clicking that purchase button, but I have for a long time been of the mind that you should at least rent it one time and test it before you buy it. I didn't do that when I bought the Blackmagic Pocket camera. I just went ahead and bought that, but it was a cheap enough purchase that I thought it was going to be fine. Now, after owning it for at least 3 or 4 months, not what I needed, not super happy with it, although I love Blackmagic. I also own the Blackmagic Micro Cinema camera. Let's go ahead and show those. So first of all, I am a Blackmagic owner. I own the Pocket 4K, which I've had for a little while now. And I've owned this right here, which is the Micro Cinema camera, which is just a small cube, almost tennis ball like. And I've had this one for a few years now, and it's been really good. It has really good image. It's just 1080p, not 4K, but it's a pain in the butt, mainly because of the buttons. So I've been looking for something to replace that. I bought this one knowing it's not the form factor I wanted. I really like the cube form factor, but I was gonna see what I could get done with it. When I bought it, you guys might have seen the video that I did when I bought it. My goal was not to buy a lot for this. It was gonna be kind of just a testing camera as I got ready to buy the Canon C70. I'm no longer really interested in the C70. A lot of that to do with just coming down to the price. I just don't want to spend that much money right now on gear. So this is cool. I like it. I love the image that comes out of it. I like color grading Blackmagic's raw footage. But again, just that form factor wasn't doing it for me. So I've been ready to pull the trigger on a Zcam for a while. I really like that cube form factor. I've looked at, obviously, stuff like I said, I was looking at the C70 from Canon. Considered getting a C200, especially used right now with the C70 coming out. You can find some good deals. I've looked at the Red Komodo. Amazing looking camera, exactly what I need. I just don't want to spend that much money on gear at the moment. So that brings me to the Zcam. I did rent it. I suggest renting a camera before you buy it, just to make sure that it fits in your workflow, make sure you can edit the files well, and you don't have anything that just jumps out to you. So this is basically it. This is the Zcam. Really exactly what I need or want. It's bigger than the Micro Cinema camera from Blackmagic, which I'm happy with. This smaller form factor left it to a lot of limitations, which is why we have this extra connector on the top. And even this didn't help with a lot of the issues that I had with it. So this, you do get a small screen on top. You've got your buttons here for interfacing, a record button. You have your power button and some function buttons on the side here. I'm gonna assume if you're watching this video, you've probably seen other first looks and breakdowns of the Zcam. This definitely isn't a new thing out on the market. But I did want to talk a little bit about my beginning setup with this rental. I'm going to try to do as much as possible in the 7 days that I have this, including putting it on a gimbal and doing some gimbal work, going out shooting a couple of different scenarios, editing and color grading with this thing. So I'm going to make quite a few videos back to back looking at this, and then I'm going to determine whether I am going to pull the trigger. And I can already tell you that it's probably going to be the case that I'll be selling the Pocket 4K and picking up one of the Zcams, unless something crazy happens in the next couple of days with this. But let me show you really quickly. Obviously, I rented it, so we don't have any kind of rigging equipment that came with it, but you definitely do kind of need to rig it out to make it worth shooting with. Mainly a monitor and maybe like a handle or something. So we're going to rig it up really quickly. It does take CFast Express, the 300 megabyte per second CFast cards, which are super expensive, and I don't have one because none of the cameras that I have shoot with it except for the Pocket 4K, but I've never used them because I don't have one. I was hoping that they would send one with the rental, but they didn't. Not a huge deal. With Pocket 4K, I do shoot on an SSD. So I do have a Samsung T5 SSD here that I do shoot with the Blackmagic. So I'll be able to hook that up with this because it does have a USB Type-C port on the back. You can also use that USB Type-C port if you're using a phone for monitoring, which I would prefer to use that for the phone, even though this does have Wi-Fi also. We'll get into a lot of that, but right now I have to use it for the SSD. Let me kind of configure this the way that I'm going to be shooting with it for the next couple of days and go from there. So we do have this thing. And like I said, we don't have a cage for this because just a rental, but luckily the Z-Cam does have a lot of mounting points all over it, which allows you to mount stuff up without having to have a cage. And it's all metal construction, so it's pretty heavy out of the box. So you don't need a lot of extra stuff necessarily for weight, but also you're not going to like damage the camera by mounting stuff straight to it. But let's start getting this on here, and we're going to mount the SSD over here on the left-hand side of the camera where all these function buttons are, which kind of sucks because we're taking up the space of these function buttons again, which is why I would rather be shooting to a media card. And if I had one complaint after all the stuff that I've seen from Z-Cam, I would say I would like them to update what kind of media they record to, and instead of having that CFast card, to have other new forms of media that record at the speeds it needs to, basically. So we're going to throw this SSD in this bracket, which again, I bought this whole thing for the Blackmagic, so I had this just laying around, which works out perfectly. And there we go, we've got the SSD in there, so we can record straight to that. I still have access to the power button, but I no longer have access to those function buttons. But let's continue to move on. We also need a monitor on this bad boy, and that's another great thing that the Z-Cam does, is allows you to monitor and control the camera through an app on a smartphone. So I have an extra iPhone laying around that I downloaded the app to. I have this little cheap iPhone mount from a tripod that I bought that I never use it for the tripod. And then I have this extra little ball head here for a tripod. So we're going to screw this little adapter here. We're going to screw that onto the top here. And again, these are just temporary fixes because I don't have the proper stuff at the moment. So if I bought the camera, this isn't necessarily what I would be doing to be shooting with it all the time, but because I have all this stuff laying around, it makes a great opportunity to just use what I have. So that is going to solve our monitoring problem. And now I kind of need a handle on the side. It's okay handling it like this. You've got your record button right there, but having a nice handle on the side would help out a lot. So we're going to try to rig something up for that. So I have these handles here, again from previous rigs, and I I don't want to have a whole setup on it. I just want to use one of these and try to rig it up. So we'll try to rig it down here. All right, so we've got that on there. We're going to put this on here like that, and then a handle kind of on here like this. And again, not the perfect setup, but it makes it a little bit easier to hold this thing out like this. Now we just need to put a lens on it, get the monitor set up, battery on it, so it takes the Sony style batteries, which is great. Blackmagic has the Canon batteries, which I have a ton of, but they don't last as long as these. So one thing that I've already noticed on this is that the battery is really difficult to get in and out. And I don't know if it's just this rental setup here, but I have heard other people complain kind of about the same thing. So you really gotta angle it in there and then push down. I don't know why it's being extra difficult right now. There we go. All right, so we've got our handle secure a little bit. Got media, we've got a battery, we've got a monitor. Let's throw a lens on here. And this is just a Canon 85 for now. Let's boot it up, hold down the power button. Let's boot it on, then we'll, oh yeah, we have the Wi-Fi antenna right here. So we'll screw that on, make sure we get a good connection there. Then we go to the Zcam app, make sure that our Wi-Fi is connected to the Zcam. This was a bit of a process to get figured out. I did have to look up that the default Wi-Fi password is 1234567 because that wasn't in any of the instructions from the rental house. So now we're booted up. We're controlling it from the phone here through Wi-Fi. We're recording to the Samsung disc powered by the Sony battery. And this is a full setup that you could get out and really shoot with. And that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna do some first test clips with this little rig right here, and then come back and talk to you guys about that. And then we'll wrap the video up there. And like I said, I'll have more videos coming out with me putting on gimbal, with me kind of behind the scenes of some other shoots that I'm gonna be doing. We'll have one of us putting it on the computer and editing some of the video. We'll have color grading with that, and I might do another one at the end to give you some of my final thoughts on the camera and if this is actually going to be what I pick up. So could definitely be a better setup here, but I think that kind of works. So with that, I'm going to go out and shoot some more, and we'll wrap it up, and I'll let you guys know what I think so far. All right, so here's basically that same framing was being done on the EOS R. I put the Sigma 18-35, which is what I was shooting on. That is now on the Zcam. Zcam's mounted on the tripod, should be basically the same framing as we got on the EOS R. I can monitor it from way over here on the same little phone, so I could just pull it off. One of the really good things about having the Wi-Fi, I can just pull it off and see what I'm looking at, make sure I'm framed good, make sure everything looks good. This is being shot in 1080p, funny, because it shoots 6K. It's being shot in H.264 with the basic Rec 709 look, so it's not in RAW, it's not even using a log profile. But I thought it would be interesting to shoot it and see how that looked. Let's change it over to 6K, put it into Z-RAW and see what we're dealing with there. Which is really handy that I can just do that from here and not have to walk over to the camera to do this. So let's stop recording, I'll change it all here, and then we'll start recording again. All right, we're now in 6K, we're shooting Z-RAW, we're on the log profile, and we'll do a quick color grade. And I'll talk more about color grading this footage later and what I'm kind of doing and things like that. But again, framing looks fine. We're using the full 6K of the sensor. I didn't change anything. I didn't get up and walk over there. All I did was stop recording, change on the app, and hit record again. So pretty exciting on that front, I think, because it makes shooting stuff like this a lot easier. A lot of other cameras have apps that you can use to control them and even see the image, but this one was really pretty seamless. A lot of great features on the app itself. I'm really excited about it. The Blackmagic has an app, but never really liked it. I didn't use it a whole lot because it was a little bit clunky to figure out and use. Canon has one. Again, it's clunky, it doesn't have a far reach, and now all of a sudden it keeps erroring out and telling me that it doesn't work. So good on you, Zcam, for having this. Let's change it again. So we're in 6K now. Let's go down to 4K, and we'll try ProRes 422 and keep it on the log and see what we got there. All right, so we did it. We moved it down to 4K. And this is the ProRes 422, still in the log 2 format here. And again, super simple, super easy. We've got it in auto white balance. We've got it in, it's at f1.8, and it's on auto focus, and it's on human tracking. So it should be tracking me through focus, which is really cool for a cinema camera to even be doing. Even though I won't be using that a ton, but it's nice that it has it. What else we got here? ISO 400. We've got our waveforms here. You have focus peaking. You have a bunch of stuff here that is really great. And yeah, for stuff like this, sitting down and talking, the Zcam is probably overkill, so let's get outside and actually shoot some footage. All right, so we came out and we did some shooting the other day. We're out doing more shooting today. You'll see another video on that, talking specifics about what we're shooting with and what we're shooting. But I did want to throw this little piece in here talking about the rig that we set up earlier in the video. And the side handle definitely wasn't a success. The torque on that, just trying to hold it, it would torque backwards and come loose. So if you're going to do something like that, you definitely need a good cage that's conducive for that. If I do buy the camera, I am going to get the I think the small rig cage with the rosette and get a nice rosette handle for it. Other than that, everything is going pretty well. Recording to the SSD is just fine. Using the iPhone as a monitor is going just fine. So I'm about to get shooting another video, but I'll come back in just a second and talk to you guys more about shooting with this camera. But I need to get started shooting this video here. Again, you'll see that later on. I'll post more stuff about that. But with that, let me cut that here and get working on this video. All right, guys, so we're on like day 4 of 7 with the camera. So I figured we would get this first video out. So I've been using it for 4 days. That includes unboxing it and getting some first looks at video, all the way up to recording a full video with the Zcam, which I've already said speaks a lot about it, that I was able to jump into the camera and feel comfortable enough to really put out a full proper video with it. That's something I haven't done with other cameras. Usually I'll use them for at least a couple of weeks before I trust them to do a full video. Even when I got the EOS R, it took me a couple of weeks before I did my first full video with that. And before using the EOS R, I was just using the Canon 6D Mark II. So it was very similar. So this last little piece is being shot on the Z Cam, and a little bit of a setup here in my office. Hopefully it looks good. But I did want to wrap this up with some of my first concerns about the Z Cam. After 4 days, what I found really good about it, and some concerns that I still have about it. So let's go through those right now. Okay, and if I didn't emphasize this earlier in the video, some of my big concerns with the Z Cam when I'm first looking at it, and I've been looking at this camera for probably at least a year now. I've debated getting it before, and I didn't, and then I was looking at a couple of other cameras, and then I was waiting to see what Blackmagic would put out. So I've been thinking about the camera for a while. One of the big concerns I had was just the company. It's not a company that's been around for a long time, so just support and having a company that's going to stick around and really have, you know, integrations into the editors and things like that was something that I was concerned about, and it was pretty obvious after the last couple of months, and so that they're very open. They're out there updating for video editors, making it where you can upload the files straight into your editors, which wasn't the case at first. If you were using ZRAW, you had to transcode it first and then import it into your editor, but now Premiere Pro supports it with a plugin straight from Zcam, which is great. So that really quashed a lot of the concerns that I had about longevity of the brand. One of my other concerns was the files, not just being able to import them into the editor, but how the color looked on them, color grading those files, and of course the file splitting that a lot of people have been talking about. So I usually don't do a lot of really long takes or recording long amounts of footage. Usually 2 to 3 minutes at one time is usually the longest, unless I'm doing a talking head like this. So the file splitting wasn't a huge deal, but if I did have to run into it, it did scare me a little bit hearing all the stuff, but it does seem like they have done a lot to rectify that. Now, as far as color grading goes, one of the other people that kind of pushed me towards the direction of this camera, at least renting it, was Joe from Driven Films. They do kind of the same sort of stuff that I do, a lot of automotive videography. So being able to rig the camera and stuff is very important to me, and this works out well for that, as you've seen. But they did have a video that they put out about being able to download some Zcam footage that they took and being able to mess with the color grading there. So I did that first before I even rented this, and it ended up being pretty good. So I'll definitely do a video on how I've been color grading this footage, but that was something that really helped me quash my concerns on color grading. Now, there's a big difference between taking a little bit of their footage and putting it in, and me myself recording it and doing a full 15-20 minute long edit. So that's another reason I've rented this, to make sure that that process is going to go well for me. So far, especially because it records the proxies, it's been doing good for me, but I haven't done a full edit yet. I have done a full video shoot, and it was a huge amount of files. So I'm not necessarily looking forward to that edit, but I'm looking forward to diving into it and really seeing how everything handles, how my computer handles everything. All right, and that's all I got for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. Please leave me comments down below. Let me know what you think about the Zcam, what I should be doing with it here as I've got it rented. Again, I'll have some more videos coming out, running it on a gimbal, doing some color grading and editing, and then I'll make another final video after my full week and to let you guys know if I've made the decision if I'm going to end up getting it or not. But until then, I hope you guys did enjoy. Subscribe to the channel if you're looking forward to these other videos. Thanks for watching.